Today, we're jumping right into a really powerful concept from Dmytro Golodiuk. We're talking about his strategic blueprint for building an AI-driven forecasting architecture. Now, this isn't just another tech talk. It's really about a fundamental shift, a transformation from being a reactive organization to a truly predictive one. And Dima, well, he absolutely nails it with this quote. Think about it. In a world with crazy dynamic markets and just massive amounts of data, simply looking in the rearview mirror, analyzing what already happened, it just doesn't cut it anymore. The pace of change is just way too fast for that old approach. So, this is the big question every single leader and architect is facing right now. If the old way of doing things is broken, what does the new way even look like? How do you actually build a system that doesn't just tell you about the past, but helps you actively shape your company's future? Okay, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about that big shift from hindsight to foresight. Then we'll get into the analytics maturity model, the AI blueprint itself, how to implement it, the crucial role of governance, and finally, the thing everyone wants to know, the ROI. Let's get started. First things first, we have to talk about this fundamental shift in thinking. We're moving from a world that was obsessed with looking backward to one that's all about looking forward. And you know what? That requires a totally new way of thinking about enterprise architecture. This right here, this lays out the whole story. The old world was reactive, right? You'd get a report, a person would look at it, and then they'd make a decision. But this new world, it's proactive. It's AI augmented. We're building systems that don't just predict what's coming, but can actually recommend or even automate the absolute best response. So how do we get there? Well, Dima lays out what he calls the analytics maturity model. The best way to think about this is like a ladder. It's a guide for your organization, taking you step by step from just basic data usage all the way up to true artificial intelligence. So down at the very bottom rung of the ladder, you've got descriptive analytics. This is the foundational stuff, your quarterly sales reports, your BI dashboards. It's all about answering that one basic question: what happened? But just knowing what happened, well, that's not really enough, is it? So the next step up is diagnostic analytics. This is where we start asking, why did it happen? You're moving beyond just seeing that sales are down to actually figuring out the root cause. And this is where things get really interesting. This is the pivot from looking at the past to really looking at the future. Predictive analytics uses machine learning to answer the absolute game-changing question: what will happen? We're talking about forecasting demand, customer churn, or even fraud. A prediction is only as good as the action you take on it. And that's exactly where prescriptive analytics comes in. It doesn't just tell you what's going to happen. It recommends the best possible action, answering, okay, so what should we do about it? This is where insight starts to become automated strategy. And finally, at the very top of the ladder, you have cognitive analytics. This is where AI starts to mimic human reasoning. It can understand context, even from messy, unstructured data, to automate incredibly complex decisions. It's basically augmenting your human experts at a massive enterprise scale. So here you can see the whole journey laid out, from top to bottom. But the real key takeaway here isn't just about mastering one of these stages. It's about integrating all of them. Each step literally builds on the last, creating a system that is so much more powerful than the sum of its parts. All right, so how do you actually build a system that can do all this? Let's dive into the architectural blueprint and see how it all fits together. So from a high level, the blueprint has 4 layers, and they're all interconnected. But notice something really important. Data and infrastructure is the biggest piece of the pie by far, and that's completely intentional, because without a rock-solid foundation, everything else is just going to crumble. Dima calls this layer the non-negotiable foundation, and he's absolutely right. Its main job is to break down all those data silos and create a single source of truth for the entire company. Using something like a modern data lakehouse architecture, it pulls in, cleans up, and prepares all your data, structured and unstructured, so that your AI models have high-quality fuel to run on. Next up, you've got the MLOps and orchestration layer. Think of this as the operational engine of the whole system. It automates the entire life cycle of your models, from training all the way to monitoring them in production. This engine is what makes the whole thing scalable, reliable, and actually usable in the real world. Okay, so we've got the concept and we've got the architecture, but how do you actually build this thing? Dima proposes a really tangible phased roadmap that any leader can follow. Look, You don't try to boil the ocean here. You start with foundational readiness, getting a handle on your data, your skills. Then you launch a pilot project, solve one high-impact problem to get a quick win and get everyone bought in. From there, you build out that production-ready MLOps pipeline, and only then do you scale and integrate it across the whole enterprise. It's a smart, manageable journey.
Now, of course, with this kind of power, you've got to be responsible. Any AI initiative on this scale has to address risk head-on, and that's where governance comes in. But we really need to stop thinking of it as a roadblock and start seeing it as a strategic enabler.
And let's be really clear about this. Good governance is actually what makes trustworthy AI at scale even possible. It's the investment you make to be sure your AI systems are fair, transparent, and secure, not just today, but for the long haul. And this isn't some vague, abstract concept. A strong governance framework is built on really concrete pillars, making sure your data quality is top-notch to prevent bad predictions, demanding transparency so you can actually explain AI decisions, setting up clear accountability, constantly monitoring for bias or drift, and of course, protecting data privacy and security. Which brings us to the final, and let's be honest, maybe the most important question for any executive: why is this massive investment actually worth it? So let's talk about the return on that investment.
The value here is real, and you can absolutely quantify it. In retail, better forecasting means a huge reduction in costly inventory errors. In manufacturing, it can lead to a massive boost in operational efficiency with things like predictive maintenance. And in financial services, the savings from better fraud detection can be just staggering. The results really do speak for themselves.
So to wrap this all up, here are the key takeaways from Dima's blueprint for you as a leader. It's all about starting with business value, not the tech. It's about prioritizing a unified data architecture and treating this as one integrated system, not a bunch of disconnected projects. And critically, it's about investing in governance as an enabler and remembering that your people are the most critical piece of the puzzle. Ultimately, what this blueprint really is a call to action. The potential to predict and shape the entire future of your business is locked inside the data you already have. So the only real question left is your architecture ready to turn the key?